Hello everyone. So, I recently got a comment saying, why can't I read and write, and where did you get that? Of course, I think that comment was meant to be a little bit sarcastic, but still, I want to explain why I can't read and write for many of you new followers, and just to, get into detail, the nitty-gritty detail of why I can't read and write. Simply, autism is a condition you're born with, like any other disability. And the reason why autism is called a disability is for a very specific reason. Just like how you can be born without a leg or arm or be born with a physical disability, your brain is also a part of you. Meaning your brain is a muscle, it has neurons, and your brain has about 500 billion neurons. And because of that, your brain is a physical thing that exists. And because of that, when you're born, you can sometimes be born with an inconsistency. Of course, I do not know the full explanation of why you're born with autism, but the truth is sometimes you're just born with autism and it affects your brain in some way that I do not know now. But anyway, when you're born with autism, it can affect you in many different ways. And for me, one of the biggest things that affected me was not being able to read and write. And yeah, right now I do not follow the autistic tropes that many people do look at when they talk about autism, and it is kind of a little bit of a stereotype, not really, because I was definitely the most, stereotypical autistic person. I didn't like looking at people, or people looking at me. I didn't like certain foods. I was really picky either. I hated loud sounds and wanted to be indoors all the time. But through time, I grew up. I learned more about the world and understood how to cope and how to deal with the things I struggled with a lot. And now I'm at the point where the only thing I do struggle with my autism is the ability to read and write. Of course, some things do overwhelm me a little bit, but I've learned how to deal with it. I'm mentally strong enough to deal with those things that I wasn't able to deal with in the past. And the best thing about the human brain is it adapts. It adapts to certain circumstances, and when you struggle with certain things, your brain naturally adapts to those struggles. Like, for example, a long time ago, I think back in the 90s, a man was born with 90% of his brain completely gone. He only had 10%, the other 90% was filled with fluid, and he was still alive. He was still able to live a completely full life. He was able to have kids, have a wife, all that type of stuff. It baffled scientists for years, but the one thing scientists started learning about the human brain is, in really interesting circumstances, it can adapt. And there are many autistic people like me that are completely fine and completely able to live in this world and do anything they want with certain limitations. The biggest limitation for me is not being able to read and write. Of course, I can sit here for days talking about autism, but the truth is, we all need to know about autism. It is 1% of the world is autistic, meaning a large percentage of towns and places will have autistic people. And of course, I do not know the amount of autistic people in my town, but the one thing I do know is the number is steadily increasing over time, meaning in the future when we have more people, we will have more people with autism. So the best thing I think we can do for this world is talk about autism more, bring light on it, because think about it, only 1% of the world is autistic, but that doesn't only connect to all people with neurodisabilities. That's just for autism, meaning there are many other people with neurodisabilities that are not getting the treatment they need, and going forward, I think everyone needs to know about autism. Even if you do not understand what it is, you may need to understand how to deal with it better. And I understand sometimes when it comes to talk about with autism, there's some things that people aren't comfortable with talking about, like the nitty-gritty detail of autism, and some people don't even like being called autistic. But the truth is, the best thing you can do about autism is accept it and move forward, adapt, because all people can adapt out of the situation they are put into. Autism is a disability. Just like how you can be physically disabled, you can be mentally disabled. But the only thing is, you can adapt and learn to get better at the disability you have.